On June 6, 1944, the eyes of the world were upon the men as the free world awaited Normandy's invasion. For the invasion to be a success, it would depend on air superiority and Germany's failure to gather reinforcements. For it to be a failure, the Allied powers had to be stopped at the beach. Weather was poor on the day of June 6, 1944, and although not ideal weather for an invasion, it was ideal to catch Hitler by surprise. General Dwight D. Eisenhower decided to go through with the invasion. This invasion would last for 2 months and would be the turning point of the war, giving the Allies the advantage. World War II would begin in September 1939, when Adolf Hitler invaded Poland, and in May 1940, France and Britain would declare war on Germany. At the beginning of the war, the Axis powers had the upper hand. However, in December 1941, Japan would bomb Pearl Harbor, leading the United States to declare war on Japan. In response, Germany declared war on the U.S., believing that Japan would keep them distracted from the European theater. After the United States entered the war would start turning its favor to the Allied powers, but France, having been invaded by the Germans in the summer of 1940, still needed to be liberated. The day to invade France and start liberating it would be June 6, 1944, despite the poor weather. This invasion would be codenamed Overlord. British Admiral Bertram H. Ramsay would be in command of Operation Neptune, the naval operation, while British General Bernard Montgomery would oversee the entire operation. The objective was to, quote, secure a lodgment on the continent from which further operations can be developed, unquote. On the night of June 5th, 23,400 U.S. and British parachutists and glider troops embarked on the airborne operation, but thick clouds would cause the pilots to veer off course. In addition to German anti-aircraft fire, there were premature drops, and the paratroopers were scattered all over the peninsula. Some were dropped in the English Channel where they drowned. The actual invasion of Normandy started on June 6th, only the invasion of Omaha Beach was in jeopardy. At 5:30 a.m., the bombardment ships opened on the invasion front. 30 to 40 minutes later, the first U.S. troops arrived. The British arrived 2 hours later. At Omaha, rough seas would mean that only 5 of the duplex drive tanks would reach ashore. Support artillery would be lost, and some landing crafts would be destroyed. Allied ground would be slower than expected, and Hitler would order his troops to fight while they withdraw. This would delay the Allied forces, but accelerate the defeat of the Germans and ensure that Normandy would be costly. Air superiority would devastate the Germans, and the French resistance would provide Allies with intelligence information to ensure an Allied victory. The Normandy invasion would not only be a turning point of the war, but also a turning point of the 20th century. The army in Nazi-occupied Europe could not be dislodged, and with the Soviet invasion from the east, the war in Europe would come to an end in 1945.